This is Speak My Word Ministries, Travis Zimmerman. The Daily Pulse today is about walking into the lion's den. No, I'm not talking, literally like Daniel. And, Daniel literally walked into a lion's den. But has God ever asked you to walk into a lion's den? And he did ask me, and that's what I want to share with you, just the machinations going back and forth in my mind about it. Specifically, as some of you have seen, I did a devotion for a Daily Pulse for John Andrews, one of my classmates who recently perished. He wasn't the first of my classmates to perish. It's always very humbling to go back to class reunions, the 15th and the 20th, and see pictures there of our friends who've already gone beyond, who've already died. And John died rather unexpectedly. He's age 42. Who would think they would lose their life at 42? I came back into contact with John a couple of years ago. We corresponding back and forth very infrequently, but still I consider him my friend. And as got news on Facebook that John had died, I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been praying for John every week to come to know Jesus Christ. Every week I've been praying, just trusting God in that. One of the things that, and this is kind of obvious, that we're not to judge is judge salvation. It sounds obvious because we're not God, we're mortals. But nonetheless, it's so easy for us to say, oh, that person's not saved. Well, that person is saved. Well, you know what? Do we know that? And the answer is no, we don't. We may have an idea, but we don't know that. So totally non-judgmental, we can't say that. But as I was thinking about how to express my condolences for John, as I was reading on John's Facebook page, so much sadness and so much pain. Understandably, here is a man who was a nice man who had a lot of friends, a lot of people that he touched. Now, what's interesting is on John's Facebook page, it's basically, the opposite. There's 666s, there's pentagrams, there's upside down crosses, very scary stuff. And at least the way John was heading it appeared that that's the way, he was looking after the devil. And again, I don't know where John's at right now. I don't. But as I was preparing something, what can I say to John? I'm about as church boy as they get, and everything I talk about is Jesus. So how can I be relevant to these folks, even in the time of hurting? And, as I put it to prayer for John's family and those who are hurting, God just put it in my heart, share a devotion with him. Share a devotion on their page. And I'm like, what? They're not even they're gonna X out my posters. There's no way they're gonna listen to anything about Jesus. This is the opposite of Jesus. But as I prayed about it, over and over, I sensed God's peace saying, share a message with him. And I shared John chapter 14, verses 1 to 6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. God sent me into a lion's den, and I wasn't fearing for my life. I'm just feeling like, you're going to be laughed at, and this isn't going to be relevant to them. You don't have a basis for a conversation. You don't have a relationship with these folks. How can you be relevant? But you know what Jesus is. Jesus is in times of hurting. And as we walk in that lion's den, remember the devil's nature. Remember what Peter says about him in 1 Peter 5:8. He says, be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. The devil is a lion. But we serve the Lion, the tribe of Judah. Lion of the tribe of Judah. He is the King of kings and Lord of lords. And though I had fear and trepidation about being cast off or embarrassed or made fun of, Jesus is already in charge of that. The devil, he does have a role to play, and God uses the devil for his greater good. God's greater good, not the devil's, because he's got no good in him at all. But it's just for a time. Remember that. So I continue to pray for the peace for John Andrews' family and friends. Father, pray that all would come to know Jesus and stuff that devil down where he belongs and serve Jesus with all we got.